see you.
Oh, we're live. Oh
We're
gosh.
live.
I'm a mess. This is why you can't see me.
There we go.
Listen, for
Talk
people who
about a
don't
day.
know, this is not the day, okay? You are not about to get some polished book club discussion. We are a mess.
Not today.
Look, I got cookies in the background. Jesus.
I'm lucky to
Y'all,
have this thing working because I told you the computer wasn't working. It didn't even power on. I don't know what's wrong with it.
you
But
still
we made
wearing
it.
your work clothes and
Yep.
everything.
Still in work clothes. I literally just got home like exactly 20 minutes ago.
This
We're
is
doing it.
I'm I don't even know what to think about this one. But uh, being as candid as possible, I also finished the book 20 minutes ago. So here we go.
We're
It's
live.
fresh.
It's happening.
It's fresh in my head, but
When did I read
Jesus,
mine? I think I read mine like at the
you
beginning
read
of the
yours
month.
early
I read it like really, really early.
and you were flying through. You were like chapter 26, 27, 20. Like, dang.
Yes. I ate it up. I ate the whole thing up. Just
I started it 2 days ago and I was like, you know what? It's a short read. I'll just push it. And then I didn't read it at all yesterday. And then
mm-hmm.
today I'm like, I'll do it at work. Work was just too much. So I had to read
Work
it
was
after
working.
work. Work was working on all my nerves. So I finished it, but ooh, there were some things where I was just like, can we hurry this up? Because
Mm-hmm.
I would like to get to it. And then I think it's part 3 that like things picked up for me where
Yeah,
I was
part
like,
two was slower.
part
Yeah,
2 was
part
really
two.
slow because like we were getting
Yeah.
the what happened in between the childhood, which I liked, and then like that
Mm-hmm.
teenage college years and all the ridiculousness that eventually happened there took a while to build. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I got through it.
Oh, we
I
didn't
guess I
even
gotta.
introduce the book.
You're right, but it's in the title. People know what they're here for. But here's the picture. Um,
Here's the book.
y'all don't even watch this book club discussion because I don't know what we're doing over here.
I
But
think this is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. We're good. We're good.
Emily's over here sleeping. Uh, I,
Oh,
I don't. We a mess.
that's okay. I feel like it's been the Mondayest Thursday ever. Is that the correct term to say? The
That is
Monday is
scientifically correct.
Thursday ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going. It's going. We're almost there.
I will say, you know, this was a book for Women's History Month. And on the other side of this book, after getting through it and reading it, we picked a phenomenal book for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Absolutely.
I think this embodies not only just some strong female led characters, but this is a lot about political climate regarding women's rights in a culture that I didn't know really anything about. But I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that if I had to describe this book in one way, it would be there's a picture of Iran or Iraq, a girl in Iran or Iraq from the 80s, and she's wearing like a bikini, sitting in front of a car, and then you cut to, in the modern era, and everyone is in full hijab or full, I'm not gonna Bari, I think it is the full,
I don't remember, but
yeah, the
the whole
whole getup
everything that they're
where
forced
it's
to wear, yeah.
nothing but eyes. And so
Mm-hmm.
that has happened in such a short amount of time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was really interested to see how that, from the actual perspective of somebody from the country, how that haul went down. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but it is not unlike the climate that we have going on in America right now.
Mm-mm.
It's
It was very
scary.
it was very interesting. Very, very interesting. Um, I think I enjoyed it the most because of the culture that was like actually immersed and like woven in For some reason, my Kindle is not, it's just following suit and it's not giving me my highlights, but that's okay. I had all kinds of great stuff highlighted for today with like some of the meals and things that they would eat. Like there was the yogurt drink or
The
something, or
yogurt drink, yeah, they talked about that a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and just how, I mean, not to go spoilery or anything, but just how what happens in like the grief stages and how that stuff is arranged and taken care of in school for girls. That was a huge thing because at one
Yeah.
point they couldn't go to school, and it was just very, I like I said, I ate this one up. I did. I ate it all up.
I definitely liked the book. I will say
Mhm.
that my mood was not here's what I gotta do in future months.
Mhm.
When I feel that I'm in the mood for the type of book we're reading, I just need to read it then. I can't always wait till the last second because I might not be in the mood, and then it's so challenging to get through it. So,
You just got
I
to
will
read it
say
and
that
take notes.
I had to be subjective and, like, say, "Caleb, take a look at what you read and really think about this." This isn't a book that I would feel comfortable critiquing. Um, it's a story about it as much as it is fiction, it feels extremely, like
Nonfiction. Mhm.
autobiographical or
Mhm.
like a memoir, and at the end, kind of writing to, a character writing to somebody else, it feels
Mhm.
like they're telling the story as if it's a memoir, and I'm sure that this is very quite a few people's stories from that culture, and I'm sure there's a significant amount of folks who migrated here because of the political climate uh, in Iran, and I really did enjoy it. I'm just going to jump ahead here because at this point I think it's time to start giving something. I guess maybe we should start with the summary. So I'll do it based off of. Let me see if I can find my note. There we go. I'm not even going to do the summary. I'm just going to read it from my memory here. But the Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali starts in the 1950s, and we get glimpses into this little girl's life in 1950s Tehran, and she's comes from privilege, and that is all upended when, like many cultures that are very reliant on men, the father dies, and the wife and the child are left to the wills of neighbors or to the brothers or some other male and to take care of them, and they end up where they would not like to be. They end up in the slums downtown, and while they try their best to continue to live their lives the way they always have, her mom's holding tight to that privilege and wanting to keep that part alive. While she's there, she makes a friend. So Homa is her friend's name, Ellie is her name, and they create this inseparable friendship despite the large differences between the way they were brought up. Jump ahead. Um, Ellie and her mother eventually move back uptown to privilege and they leave Homa behind. And the story goes from there and it follows these two women from childhood to breaking apart to getting back together in high school and their relationship there, all the while watching the political climate of Iran change over and over and over. And you get to see it from a unique perspective because, yes, you're following their lives into adulthood and all that changes throughout there, but you're also seeing what's happening in the country and how those changes feel subtle, but they're sweeping. They're very big changes. So we follow them all the way through adulthood, and I don't want to spoil anything there, but there's migration to America for a better life, and I was really moved by the characters. This is that kind of story you're not going to get a lot of plot. That's why there's really not to talk a lot to talk about. It really is the dynamic between the women and how they navigate life from marriage and education and jobs and everything like that. And I also really enjoyed the later years where they show what it's like to be an immigrant in America. And I feel like they could have touched on that a little more. So, trying to think, did I miss anything?
No, I was
Okay,
so
good.
proud because I'm like, you did so great.
I'm like, I don't want to read the synopsis. It's not the same. Um,
No, you did excellent. And I think it was perfect. Honestly, it was perfect. And I love that you said that it was like a narrative necessarily, because that's what it felt like to me, was a narrative. Like maybe we were sitting and like watching a movie or something, like that's how. And I think that's why I was just reading it the way that I was reading it, because I didn't want to put it down, because I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on with Ellie, what's going on with Homa, and the back and forth that they had going on. And like when they first met, my heart just melted. I loved it.
I'm glad I did the audio because I would have butchered so much of the language that's included in in this,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Yes.
gave a sense of authenticity to it. And though there's not a whole lot, what I really kind of dawned on me so late in this book, shame on me, but we're hearing these books, we're hearing these words in English, me
Mm-hmm.
not realizing they're talking in their native Persian tongue,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's just being translated for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So later on, when they're talking to people in America, and you can hear her really broken, poor English because that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
something they didn't. They don't idolize Western culture. They don't.
No.
They don't push for anything like that. So English isn't something they're pushing for folks in Iran to learn. And I keep saying Iran and it's Iran. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to do better because I heard it 1,000 times. But also, I didn't think about so many dynamics to their culture. Number one, didn't know it was Persia.
Yeah.
Number two, didn't know they spoke like Persian, not
Mm-hmm.
then in Kurdish,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple other languages. So like they have multiple languages. Just
Multiple.
that was the piece that I really enjoyed. Like, oh, I'm learning about a culture that right now is painted as a villain. As a country here in America, our relationship with Iran is awful, and
Mm-hmm.
the threat of nuclear war and everything else, and the siding with Russia and all of that, it's scary. And so getting to hear a story, because there's that country may be run by the government and the military, but there are people there.
Yeah.
There are so many men, women, and children that are just trying to live their lives, and they happen to be there. And
Yeah.
it's nice to see glimpses of that culture through the book.
Yeah, because it's one thing that, you know, with media and things, what we see is completely different. We don't actually see what their family structure is like. Um, it seems to be like a very closed off, necessary culture. And the
Yeah.
only way you really know the depths of their culture is if you actually go and visit, or if you know people who, are in this space necessarily. But other than that, everything was honestly brand new to me, with reading this book. And that's why, like I said, I just couldn't put it down. I couldn't.
It was very interesting to me. Again, mood aside, I did struggle because
Hmm.
this is not a thrilling book. This is not a exciting book. This isn't going to get your
Yes,
blood
it
pumping.
was.
No, it
Yes,
wasn't.
it
Don't
was.
let her lie to you.
Steve Ashley.
No, Team Caleb knows the truth. There was nothing to this book to be action y. It
I
was
think
truly a
so.
character study.
I think so. I think what section was it? Three? Part three? I would say that kind of had some action in it. When we
I
find
mean,
out
there's
what
there's
Alma's actually
pieces,
doing. Uh-huh.
but your definition of action, my definition of action do not
Are
meet.
not the same.
No, 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 no.
They're not the
I
same.
agree that there are pieces of excitement, or
Hmm.
it's not just the mundane everyday life.
Yeah.
But no, it's not action, y'all. So let's get into ratings. What did
Mm-hmm.
you rate it?
What did you rate it?
You beat me. Okay. I'm gonna give it a 4.
For?
I think it's beautifully written. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the authenticity, the characters, the culture, and the things I learned about it. However, it wasn't hitting the mood, so I can't say that I was in love with this book. I wasn't gushing like you clearly were. So I can only
Yes.
imagine your rating is gonna go above mine.
It's a 5.
Yeah, I figured.
This was a 5-star read for me. Just the way the story was written, it actually reminded me, like it gave me Nightingale vibes with Kristen Hanna. So with reading, the
It's not
historical
good.
setting of it, it
You're
is.
trying to convince me to read it,
I
and
sure am. I sure am.
but that's to be expected. And I didn't expect excitement. I want to be very
Hmm.
clear. I know this is a literary historical fiction, a
Yes.
literary fiction. However, I just, I'm finishing all these fantasy reads and my blood's going, and like to have to slow down
Hmm.
and go to something that's going to make me have to use my brain. Um, yeah, it was hard.
I thought it was excellent. Just the details of the bond between Ellie and Oma. They're two very different personalities. I loved watching Ellie grow up, like how she just took on and soaked up whatever was around her. And I really enjoyed watching Ellie. I think the biggest part of the story is definitely Ella and her interactions with everything around her, her mother.
Yes, it was.
Hmm.
I am reminded of some very tough moms, but I will say this: her mom has a lot of subtle prejudices, and she just comes across with this air about her that she's better than everyone. And that's not great, but deep down, her mom was only trying to protect her crown jewel, her daughter, and she was a good woman at heart. Her approach was wrong. And I like that she never apologized for that. And I think that's a very strong that's to write a character like that, that's coming from experience. That's somebody's mom that she knows. My mom would never apologize and admit wrongdoing necessarily. She will admit, I didn't like that person. I didn't want you around that person because I thought they weren't good for you. But also, I wanted you to grow up and make your own choices. And so, getting that perspective, I would have liked a little more in the conversation between her mom and her later in life, because I think that there was a lot of stuff that could be like imparted in that, and I would have liked to hear them talk about that a little more.
There was a conversation.
But it was short. It wasn't as long as I hoped.
That's because she really couldn't stand her mom.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, quite honest, she really just couldn't stand her mom. And my favorite part, so like when the book first started, I was thinking like her mom was just like feisty, strong, like just how they opened it up. And then as it kept unfolding, I was like, oh, I don't like her. I
No,
do not like
she's
her
not
at
good.
all. Like she did not become my favorite character as I thought she was going to be when the book first opened. And it was literally when her mom comes to visit them. I know we're like going all the way in, but when her mom comes to visit and she gives her a TV dinner.
Oh yeah, all of that. And I don't remember the word they say, but whatever the word they kept saying, which was basically like, "Oh boy."
Yes.
And she kept saying, and she looked at her. She gave her fish sticks at one point, and everything. It
I know
was
she did it on
hilarious.
purpose. I feel like she did it to really get back at her because she was like, "Yeah, here's fish sticks, and here's a TV dinner, and here's this," and she just kept giving her more and more. And her mom was like, "What was it? Ya or you or it was something she said," and I just thought it
Yeah.
was so hilarious.
I also enjoyed that they kept calling it Canada for
Hmm.
Canada Dry.
Yes.
And
And
they
they thought they
literally
were just
thought that
so
that
fancy
was
with it.
it was their like Persian drink, and
Mhm.
comes to turns out it's an American soda,
Yes.
and it's hilarious. Uh, the book was great. I definitely liked reading from them. So let's go ahead and get into some questions. All right. So obviously, the girls come from significantly different backgrounds. And certainly, I'm reminded a lot of some childhood friends that I had, that we grew up in different places. I certainly didn't grow up affluent or anything like that, but I had friends from both sides of the tracks, per se. So, like, how did you think their differing social backgrounds like influenced their friendship? Do you think it was because of the curiosity between them that they were curious about how the other one lived, or do you think children are just kind of willfully ignorant?
I will honestly say that I think they were just excited to both be at school and to be so young. And Oma, she just had that personality and she was just full of so much life. She was all the things that Ellie could never have. You know,
Yeah,
she didn't have the family aspect with her mom. She didn't have her father. Her father had passed away pretty early. So a lot of the things that she was looking for, Oma actually had. And she talked a lot about cooking in the kitchen with her. Her mother
yeah,
wouldn't let her cook with her. You know, so I really think Ellie gravitated to her, even though at first she was calling her like a slum or something. There was something that she had called her. I don't remember what it was, but she was like basically like what her mom had necessarily had pulled, you know, and then she
yeah.
was delivering what it was that she was
She was
taught because
repeating
when we're
what she
kid,
heard her mother. Yeah.
yes, because that's something that kids do. Kids do those things like mine right now.
Yes. I definitely think there's a line later in the book. So in case anybody is curious, we are going to get a little spoilery. I'm just going to talk about a few things in later in the book. I don't know that I'm going to give anything like big away, but I do want to say, like, she says she feels guilty because she wanted everything that Homa had,
Hmm.
and eventually, because she does fear for Homa fears for her daughter's life, she sends her to America to live with Ellie to protect her, and she
Hmm.
ends up kind of stealing Homa's life in a way
Yeah.
because she gets her daughter and she raises her as her own, and um, they had a very rough relationship because a very large mistake is made on Ellie's part that
Hmm.
hurts Oma in a way that is unimaginable. So she carries all that guilt, and that guilt goes all the way to basically the last page of this book,
All
where
the
they
way.
eventually are able to kind of talk about it.
Hmm.
And I waited that whole time, and I'm so glad that I did because when they had that conversation, there was so much to it
Hmm.
where one person's carrying a lot of guilt, the other person was also carrying a lot of guilt for something that they didn't realize. Like, I wish they had just communicated, just
Yeah.
talked about it. But
But one thing I will also say as women, sometimes it's harder for us to kind of bring that up. You know, it's something that happens a lot in being a woman necessarily is where you can't, I don't want to say like hold a grudge because it's not a grudge, but you can have this ill feeling and be like, okay, well, I'll just move on without, you know, I don't need to make this conversation. Um, and they do end up living those two very different lives. I think it's also important that we mention that Ellie struggles with infertility. So that's a really big part of the story because remember, her mom instilled in her you need dolls and you need to be a mother, and being a mother and a wife is the most important thing that you can have. And then when she struggles with this infertility, that part of her is gone because she can't have kids, you know?
mhm,
And in that day and age necessarily for a woman that can't have kids is a really big deal. because that's what women did during that time frame. They were at home, they were taking care of kids, they were having babies, they were taking care of home, you know, all the things. It wasn't really where the women were more so in that time, like actually going to work like we're doing now, you know, so that was a very big part. And I think when she was able to, you know, when Oma reached out to her, you know, she's like, well, no, I can't, you know, because she has this guilt that's just weighing in on her. And the whole time she's like, I just have to talk to her. I just have to talk to her. And almost like, I already knew.
Yeah.
Like, I've been new. Like, what you stressing about?
It's amazing how there was a couple moments of like brevity where like this is like a heavier, not super heavy read, but it is definitely a heavier read, and
Hmm.
it's kind of monotone in a way. So there's a point where Ellie is out to dinner with her soon to be fiance. He does ask her
Hmm.
to marry him in that moment, but he
Yeah.
goes, I want to talk about our future. Like, I know you have aspirations. You want to get an education. You want to work, and all of those things there. And he's like, so what about our future? And he kind of hints at it. She's like, oh, I want 5 kids, and he's like, oh, good, because I want 6. And they kind of laughed
Hmm.
about it, and
Yeah.
obviously that was some foreshadowing. Like, family was important to them, but what was
Hmm.
even better was like their, and it's not talked about a whole lot. Like, I think his name is Murdop. He is such a good man. Like,
Hmm.
they can't have kids. It's not a big deal. We'll create whatever life we can with each other.
Hmm.
And then, uh, ending up with Alma's daughter, they just was like, this is the right thing to do. Like, there's no question. There's not tension. Like, I don't want to raise somebody else's kid or blah, blah. There was
Hmm.
none of that. He was
None.
just a
It was
stand up
just
guy.
immediate, like, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. No
So
question
I did
about
enjoy
it.
that.
And then he even said, well, you know, like, I think he said something about like there's no other option or what is the least we could do or something
It's the
like
least we
that.
could do because, of course, he
Yeah,
knows what happened.
yeah,
But,
absolutely.
I will say that this book does a good job, and the next question is gonna allude to a little bit of this, but it does not give a lot of weight to the male perspective in this
Hmm.
book. There's an
Right.
uncle, there's her husband, there's another husband, and there seems to be that. I think that was on purpose. I know for a fact it was, because the
Hmm.
women in Tehran have had their rights stripped, their voices taken, and so it
Everything.
makes sense to center the female voice here and let that be the story.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that'll lead us to the second question I've got here, which is, the book is called The Lion Women. And in that, they speak on it a few times throughout the book. But like, what did you think of when you read that title? What did you think you were going to get?
I was thinking more so as the strong women necessarily that stand out, you know. That was a really big thing for me. Just in and I have a note somewhere, and of course, I don't remember where they actually said about being lion women, but
Yeah. They
it's
said it quite a few
somewhere.
times from childhood and into adulthood.
Hmm. And I just took it as being strong women, you know, being the difference, having the courage to try and make a change. And I will definitely say that Alma was a lion woman by far,
I
you
definitely
know.
think both of them had this courage, because lion, pride,
Hmm.
courage, all of that. And keep in mind, lion women, the female lions, hunt. They do all of the hunting and all of that. And the males really kind of just, start the families. And male lions, of course, get all of the pride, but the women run it all. And so I think that was a very
Hmm.
clever way to put that here. And so while we have Oma, who was very much like a loud and rambunctious and boisterous
Hmm.
character, and she keeps that forever.
Throughout the whole thing.
Throughout the whole
Hmm.
thing, though she is broken and bruised, she keeps that through the rest of her life. And
Hmm.
I think Ellie finds her own way to say, but this is what I wanted. It's okay for me to want a family. It's okay for me to not want to work. And Oma admitted later on in life, and I think this comes with maturity, like, I don't want to say that you can't be at home raising a family. I just want you to have the choice.
Mhm.
And that's what it means to be a true feminist, a true somebody who supports women's rights, is the right to choose, no matter what that is.
Yeah, that was major. And I found the fish stick part that I highlighted. It's chapter 37, and she said, "Fish in the shape of a stick and breaded, va." That's what she kept saying,
That's the
va.
word. Yeah. Bah. Yeah.
That was so great. I know we
There
talked
were
about it
just little
previously, but
moments.
I was like, as I'm clicking through, I was like, "Oh yeah, there it is, there
It's a lot
it
of
is."
fun. It had little moments of humor,
Mhm.
um, and I think there it gave you a sense of culture every time it did that
Yeah,
authenticity. Like, you get to know the people. I definitely will say that these characters are there's no way that these aren't based on real people. They're so real and so raw.
they do
There's
feel real. Mhm.
no, it feels like a story. Like, I could watch
Mhm.
this on TV or a movie
Mhm.
and be in it the whole time. Know those characters through and through.
Yeah, I think that's why I just loved it so much, just because of how well Marjan like really just wrote these characters and how it flowed with the different parts. And like you said, it really feels like it's a true story. I don't know if it had like some type of ties to, they said it's based off of true characters or anything like that. I don't know if that was a part of it, but it felt like a true story.
Hey, Shara.
Hey, Shara.
I like it. Facts. Um, Thanks for joining us. I kind of forgot about the comments for a while, y'all. So if anybody else popped in here, I apologize.
It has been a day. It has been a
A day
day.
and a half.
Hmm.
Um, but
We kind of
yeah,
touched on our next one too.
we did. I think I'm jumping up ahead to
Hmm.
the mother daughter relationships. We definitely talked about a lot of that, but I think
Hmm.
there's something to be said about a lot of other cultures besides, of course, the American culture, where it's kind of everybody's on their own. These
Hmm.
cultures stick together. Asian cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, they really pride family, and those families tend to stick together. And so, seeing the mom with the daughter who goes off on her own, and their relationship with their daughter, and eventually granddaughters, and so on and so forth, watching how her relationship with her mother shaped her into being a mother, where she kept hearing herself talking like her mother would have talked, and kind of having that full circle moment. I know I've done it with my kids where I'm like, I know I sound like my mom and dad, but they were onto something. We're lazy little butts, and sometimes we got to get snapped into gear. But that was a really cool thing there. So that dynamic seemed really pronounced. Like, this is very much a story about mothers and daughters and friends and the political climate and so many other things. It's really layered. Sorry, Emily just burst in the door here with an ice cream cone, y'all. No ice cream, by the way. She's just eating an ice cream cone.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. I actually paused because Johnny's having a rough day today. So I had to put it on mute because I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're all
But
right.
we're
I can
making it.
read your expressions.
We're making it. We're making it.
This is why we're gonna start filming the podcast, because y'all got to see some of these expressions we do. Oh boy. Um, let's see what else we got. By the way, you're muted in case you think you're talking.
No, I definitely muted for a reason.
Okay,
So
cool.
one thing when you were talking about the parenting part of it, it made me think of how she was taking in Oma's daughter, and she was telling her about going to the prom and talking about her friend and how her friend was going to be a bad friend. And it
Yeah.
was literally like she was living the same thing that her mom had been telling her about Oma all those years. She's like, they're not good people. They're just gonna lose you, and friendships are temporary, and how it just kept
Yeah.
going on and on. I was like, oh my gosh, like you said, literally full circle. But I wanted to give that example because it was very vivid and that relationship with Madison.
Yeah, it was Madison, and, of course it was Madison. It's some girl from New York named Madison. Of course, she's a bad influence. But it was very much like I knew the second you were hanging out with that girl, she was no good for you, and it was very much like exactly what her mom said at the beginning of the book, and I chuckled to myself because while we haven't gotten to that point too much with my kids or anything like that, because I had friends, like I said, we had the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich, and I was friends with everybody, but I'm sure there were moments where people took pity on me because I didn't come from affluence or even still there are people below us and of course my parents took pity on them and tried to take care of them, but they went about it with compassion and love versus her mom who went about this very much as they're below us, they're beneath us, you don't need to pay them any mind. And boo to mom, boo to that mom.
That mom was a piece of work. Piece
She
of
was.
work.
And again, I think she was dealt a tough hand as well. So,
I would have actually loved to know how she was raised because she was, I'm royalty. I'm a queen and I'm the descendant of a queen and we don't live like this. And that's how I felt like she was like how her personality was like written necessarily in the story, but just ooh, she was just so tooty. Ugh, I don't like her.
and it wasn't written as a story where like she's fully redeemed at the end either. Like she doesn't
No.
find the error of her ways. She's basically like, and I would do it again because
Hmm.
I only meant to protect you. And there's something to be said about that because yes, we fiercely protect our you know cubs as the
Hmm.
pun would be, and we protect our children in that way, and so she doesn't have any reason to apologize, but she definitely wasn't a great person.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I found the so we were also talking, I know we're like jumping all over the place, but it's okay because I'm going off
we
of my
already we
notes.
already warned people.
But it was the year of 1980 where the hijab became mandatory. The improper hijab is punishable by fines, beatings, even imprisonment.
Yep.
We have a new morality police. They patrol the streets looking for visible strands of hair.
Yep.
That was actually something that I had highlighted. Like I had so many highlights on this one. And that's why I'm like just paging my way through, like, oh, which one pick up? I have to figure out a way to like write this stuff down or something because having the like our book talk, book chat, book chat, having our book chat now necessarily, or is this the book talk? Which one is
This
this?
is book talk.
This is a book talk. Okay. We might have to change that. But this is the
I
book
think so.
talk. It's just today. Because when we came up with it, it was perfect. But as far as for like, I think I might have to like write down some of the really, really important tabbies or something because this,
Well, you didn't have your book to be able to tab it.
we're not gonna talk about that.
So
We're not gonna talk about that.
so to be fair, the next one, I know you got it, and I know
Uh-huh.
I got it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm gonna physically read it because my eyes don't do that. But
I think it's too
um
pretty to read it. But it's too early to go into what the next book is gonna be. So we gotta wait.
yeah, fair.
Okay.
Um but yeah, I agree. They talked about that. By the way, I think I said bara earlier. It's a
Hmm.
burqa, is the full
Okay.
it came to me. I believe is
I
the
don't know
full.
what I don't
That
know
might
what it's
still have
called.
face exposed. I don't remember what the
Hmm.
one's called where it's just a sliver of eyes. That's all they get. And,
Hmm.
people, of course, look at that as though, they look down on it like, oh, and
Yeah.
it's terrible to enforce something like that.
Hmm.
However, the devotion that many of these cultures have and why they wear that, the story behind it
Hmm.
is also, there's a lot of pride behind it.
Yeah.
And no different than Christians being proud of their crosses or whatever else they wear
Mhm.
um, in honor of that. But I don't want to talk on it either way. But certainly beating a woman
Yeah.
because some loose strands of hair um, is just
Makes my
awful,
heart hurt. Makes
and
my
it's
heart
only
hurt thinking
gotten
about it.
worse. We've seen, not that this is a great depiction of things, but I've heard stories, so many stories like this. But I remember an episode of Law and Order where the woman is killed as a mercy killing because
Mm.
of something she did in an Islamic country, and so he took it upon himself as the male of that family to mercy kill her because that is what is okay in their culture. And again, that's not a good representation of all
Mm-mm.
Islamic things. These are extremist ideas.
Right.
Um, and so we don't support Islamophobia or anything of that nature. However, those are the kinds of stories that's all we get over here. So it was really nice to read a story that shows the dark side of it, where there are people over there trapped in that kind of situation. So yeah, I want to look at another question on here. There were a couple themes that we talked about a lot, kind of beat a dead horse here, but there's a lot of
Okay.
betrayal.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you got?
Before we even get into the portrayal, the movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
The movie theater. That, again, we have discovered that I am broken. But that part,
Did he get you?
no. It tugged. It tugged. It didn't get me. But that
Yeah.
really, and then she had like a dream or something where she was kind of like she was living
She was
it
living
necessary.
through it. Yeah.
Oh,
And just thinking this is how he would have behaved because he's a good man, and he would have,
hmm,
and just like the step by step of
yeah,
that was, and I felt so bad. Rem- Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the shy boy from the slums that Ellie's husband introduced Oma to early on
yes.
that ended up, okay, it was
Because
him.
she didn't, because it was where Ellie's was Murdad.
Murdoch.
Murdad,
Yep.
he supposedly hung out with this other boy because I guess it made him feel proud necessarily because he was more of like the boy was, I guess, not as wealthy as him or,
No, he came from the
in that
same area
standing.
that Oma did. So they were
Okay.
definitely they're not quite slums, but they're definitely not where the
Hmm.
affluent live.
And what they did was they had kind of like this double date because Oma wanted to meet Murdad because she wanted to see if he was a genuine person. So then Ellie, I mean, not Ellie, Oma was so strong on being a lawyer and activist and all of these things that she was, that she was like, I'm not looking at no boy. I don't care about no boy. That was
Yeah.
like the furthest thing from her mind. But I really, just what Oma endured. Like, I, I don't want to get too spoilery, but I really want to talk about it.
I think we have to. There's just no way around it.
Okay,
Obviously
so
she's an activist in
yes,
a repressive regime, so
yes.
things aren't going to go well for her.
My thing is how she lost her husband. That was major. And how her husband actually, I feel like they should have talked about him a bit more because he was a mechanic and he would work day in and day out. He wasn't well off and established like Ellie and Murdad with all these careers and degrees and things. They essentially dropped out. And Oma gets taken. She ends up having a baby. And she somehow connects with her, like her then husband, however to put it necessarily, somehow connect, and he takes her in.
Yeah, I'm that's the part that I think it's the boy from the double date.
Yeah, it's the boy from the double date, the one that she
So
was
he
absolutely did not she wasn't interested in whatsoever. But just like that made my heart melt with everything that she endured while she was captured. I'll say captured.
yes.
And he took her in with no problem. Married her,
Yeah.
took care of her daughter. Like that definitely, I feel like this story, if I had to critique in any way, I wanted to know more of their story. I felt like we just got bits and pieces, snippets of the emotional parts, but I really would have loved to hear more of their story.
And I
Absolutely
think
would have
it's
loved it.
because they didn't give a lot of perspective from men in
Mhm.
this, but um we start the story with the passing of Ellie's father, who she
Mhm.
idolizes, and he's painted as a good man. And then we meet Murdoch. We meet this
Mhm.
other guy, and we most of the men we meet, even her uncle is a stand-up guy. They're good men. She is not painting the picture of men as evil, as bad, as anything like that, in which you might get from a feminist story in some other ways. All the
Mhm.
men in this, with the exception of one
Mhm.
man,
Mhm.
who later on we find out isn't actually a good person. Um, that's it. Everybody else was good men, and I wish they had highlighted maybe a little more about the stories behind it. But like you
Mhm.
pick up what they're putting down, what they're hinting
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
But
I just
it
wanted
is
more. I wanted more from them. That's something that I wanted more of. And I know we don't normally get too spoilery, but I had to talk about that.
it's a book
I
club
feel like,
discussion, you know what I mean? Like we're
yeah,
allowed to get spoilery if we wanna.
but I don't like to get spoilery because what if we have somebody listening that, didn't watch, well, not watch, didn't read the book or listen to the book because, we're readers and listeners here.
Correct. If that's the case, then shame on you for coming onto a book club discussion because we know what we do when we discuss book club books. Like we read these things.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I
This one just has so
definitely
much emotion.
there's a lot to
So
this
much
story. It's
emotion.
super layered,
Hmm.
and it wasn't long. This book really does read,
Hmm.
despite me listening to it on an insane amount of speed. Um,
Hmm.
it went so fast
Yeah.
because the story is it takes its time in each scene that it's in, and it gives
Hmm.
you and the chapters are really short, by the way. So
Yeah.
there's
It just
nothing that you're like
flowed.
trapped in for 45-minute chapters or anything like
No,
that. Like they go really fast.
it just absolutely flowed. And I'm hoping we get this for our next book. I'm really hoping that we get
That is a
something
bigger
where
book.
it is a bigger book. It is, but I'm hoping that, with the last few reads that we have been getting with Who Needs Reads Book Club lately, is really pretty major, actually, like with Beautiful Ugly and this one and all the other ones we have read. I'm not going to sit and go off all of them, but
I
we've
don't even
really,
remember half of these. I have to go back and think to myself which ones they are.
you have to go on
But
the
yeah,
Fable app. So if you go on the Fable
yeah,
app and click on the little
I can hit
time thing,
the
it tells you all the
timeline.
different ones. The Games God's Play, we read that one. That was a good one. So I think that our stories that we're reading are it's not your typical book talk. I mean, book talk. Book talk. It's getting late now. I'm not being able to talk and getting all tongue tied. But it's not your typical books that you would find on Book Talk
No.
or Bookstagram. Maybe BookTube, because you can find some different stuff on BookTube. But Bookstagram and Book Talk, I don't think you would necessarily find the stuff that we're reading on there.
We tend to get some books. We have a good mix. I'm looking at the ones here. So I've been a part of the club. This is my 6th book. So half a year,
Because you skipped the
which
first one.
feels I skipped the first 2 because I wasn't gonna read Fourth Wing. Um,
I
and
was the only one reading Fourth Wing. Just me all
and
by
Spell
myself.
Shop, no,
Oh, spell shot.
no.
We're not
Yeah,
gonna go
see, look
there.
at you.
We're not
Since
gonna go
then, we have been hitting pretty good. I'd say the
there.
games God's Play is probably the most unique one on here. And
Yeah.
then One Dark Window, 13th
Mhm.
Child, Spells for Forgetting, and Beautiful Ugly are
Mhm.
all kind of, while they're different, we got some fantasy, we have some
Mhm.
magical realism, we have a thriller. They all have kind of a similar vibe. Like
Mhm.
we pick good books, some of them backlist, some of them brand new. I think 13th Child had just
Mhm.
released, and
Oh,
Beautiful Ugly was a newer release. Don't start. It was pretty good. Um, but The Lion Women of Tehran, I
it's our
was
first literary. It's our first
was our
literary
first
fiction.
big real literary fiction, and
Yeah. Oh, I
certainly
didn't know it had
surprised
the
me.
lolly on the back of it.
Yeah, you
I
got that
didn't
one
know.
as the
Yeah, I didn't know it had
yeah.
the lolly finalist on the back of it.
Yep.
Cool. I didn't know that.
That's the one you
Okay.
got
Mhm.
as your free pick, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was my book of the month pick was this one, and then I added on my other two books.
Yes, which we talked about in the last one. We're
Yeah.
going to have to hint at one here in a minute because
Mhm.
I think we've reached the end of our discussion on The Lion Women.
Yes. It was
I definitely
phenomenal.
would recommend this really broadly for people who like literary fiction, women's fiction, um,
Yeah.
historical fiction. But it's not historical. It's right in that sweet spot for me. The historical in the last since like the 50s on. I don't struggle as much with those stories, and especially because this one jumps pretty quickly into the 80s and then 2000s. So um, it was a unique read. I'm glad we did it. Women's History Month made perfect sense. This was the perfect book for it, and I certainly hope people who didn't pick it up in this month will eventually get to it this year. Uh oh, Ashley, did you freeze? Oh boy, y'all. I might have lost her. She'll pop back on when she can. Don't make fun of me over there, Emily. Well, I'm going to hope that she pops back on here in a second because if she does, then we can talk about the next pick for April, which we are already in the midst of. I don't want to announce it without her being here. She should text me. Hold on, y'all. We told you. We warned you. We're a mess today. And apparently that is complete with technological problems as well. But I will pull up the next book. Oh, there she is.
Just to go
She's
along with
back.
the day. Just to go along with the day.
That's what I said while you were gone.
And now my face is frozen.
No, you're good on my side.
Okay, my face was frozen on my side. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm telling you, just to go along with the day. Just to go along.
I
But at
was
least we
like, I
finished.
don't want to announce the next book until
No.
you're back.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you. This day, the app just completely shut off. But we're good. We're good. I'm back for right now. That's just
Good.
yeah. All right. Are we gonna announce? You wanna announce? You gonna announce the next one?
I Yes, I am attempting to pull up my little picture so that I can show everybody here. But there we go. Add it in and oh, don't you take forever. Come on, there it is.
You can see it.
Our April book is The God of the Woods. She
The
has the pretty
God
one.
of the Woods. I do. I have the pretty one. I'm so excited. This is a bit thicker. Yeah, this
Quite a bit thicker.
not that much. Not that much.
Oh, my book? No, Ashley has it. My book's downstairs. You know I don't come prepared. She's like, "Where's your book?"
It's
I'm
only
like,
because I have the shelf. Like if I didn't have the
"I
shelf over here,
yeah,
yeah, that's the only
I
reason.
got
If not, it would be somewhere
our
else.
I got my copy of The God of the Woods when it was first the book of the month last year.
Okay.
I think it's actually April was the April. Does it say on your book? Normally, if you look at your hardcover part, it'll tell you what month it was a book of the month.
Um, July.
Okay, it was
2024.
July. I knew
Mm-hmm.
it was somewhere around there. So,
Yep,
um,
this one was July. And can you believe I've been wanting to read it since July?
I know I've had mine, and I knew I was gonna read it. And when it came out, so many people were doing it as part of their book clubs on BookTube and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I held off. Everybody has been giving this thing 4.5, 5 stars. Just
Mm-hmm.
it's a unique book. It is a mystery, but
Yes,
it's somewhere in between that mystery, magical realism, and literary fiction. So I think
I'm
it's going to
really
be
excited.
beautifully written.
I'm reading it this
And
weekend.
now, listen, I can't read it that early. I
I'm
have,
planning to read it this weekend because I have the
I
book.
have so many books to read this month, guys. I'm in trouble. I have to finish
So you
another
got it.
arc
Hmm.
by Tuesday. I did
Okay.
finish my book, which was the A Drop of Corruption.
Okay.
And oh, you're gonna make me talk about that one as well.
This is our book of the month.
Nice try. She want. I will say this, Ashley. I don't know if Emily texted you, but she has been begging me to read this book, so I have to read it this month. And she,
Okay.
I know for a fact you're gonna love it, which
Okay.
is A Sky Full of Elephants.
I have that for this month. Okay. So
So
we're gonna. So
I have to read it.
that's gonna be our book read for the month then.
She read me some passages
Quarter.
throughout this book.
Quarter through the quarter.
It's fine. We'll probably end up doing one a month the way we're doing stuff.
I
But
gives it gives us something to talk about, like especially when we're doing like our podcast, when we do have at least one book that we've read together. So that was
and
actually
it's
something that I
nice
was planning to read this month.
when it's a book that is maybe in somebody's comfort zone and out of somebody else's comfort zone. Like this is
Hmm.
definitely one that I was it was on my radar. The premise is just very simply one day due to a cataclysmic event,
Hmm.
all of the white people disappear die.
They
They die
just
off.
disappear. Yeah, they're gone.
And and then it's from after that. And while I
Hmm.
just certainly talked a lot about and like I kind of guessed at some things as Emily was reading it, and I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
sure I hit on some and I didn't hit on others, but I am excited to read it. I think it's going to be a great book, and I think it's a perfect book between you and I.
Yes. So
And Emily's not going to let me not read it.
I'm actually really excited. So I have a little bit of a dilemma. Okay. Libby decided to surprise me with a book that I really, really want to read. And it's also a book that you really, really, really want to read too.
Which is, by the way, I got my God of the Woods. It's not pretty. I don't have pretty pages. I do have that book. Yes.
The audio. They
Do you
just
want to know
gave me the
why the audio
audio.
came available to you?
Probably because you gave it up.
Correct.
I love it. But isn't it so
So
cool though? Like I just need to, while we're here, I just need to look at this.
the book within the book.
Yes. I thought this was so cool. But so my dilemma right now is, do I use my AirPod died?
It did.
It's
Yes. I can still hear you though.
here we go. So my thing is I read Death of the Author because Libby gave me the audio, or do I read The God of the Woods? That's my dilemma this weekend. And I'm also currently reading Bloodmarked, which I think I'll have done probably by tomorrow, I think. If it goes my way, I'll be done with Bloodmarked tomorrow.
Wow.
Hmm.
I
You're reading Sky Full of Elephants.
Emily's over here arguing with me about Sky Full of Elephants. But let me show you what I
You have to
have
tell me when to
to
read The
read.
Sky Full of Elephants, and we'll read it at the same time.
Okay. Well, you better get started then. Okay, y'all, listen. I don't go too far without my books. I got my graphic novels.
Hmm.
I got this guy. We talked about this a little bit the other day.
Okay.
Wait for it. Pick these up. Second book in a series.
Hmm.
New kind of it's kind of I think it's considered somewhere in the horror dark fairy tale retelling kind of thing.
You have all these physical books, but how many are you going to actually physically read?
Listen, don't
How
don't worry about that. Hold on, I gotta
many
find
are
my other
you going
book.
to actually physically read?
0. I don't physically read, but I always have them for comfort. Please hold.
Okay.
Okay, so nobody had to see me leaning over the chair here, but Blackwoods Blue Sky we'll get to soon.
Okay.
Gonna get a DNF, y'all.
You're just calling
It's
it.
gonna
It's
get
going to be a DNF.
his dad. His book was terrible. This isn't it. But this one,
Okay.
and then this one.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that. So, just it
But you
keep
won't read Priory.
anybody's.
But you won't
Shush.
read Priory.
This is what the stack of books looks like, y'all.
The Sanderson is just as big as Priory.
But it's written by somebody named Brandon Sanderson.
The same size.
Actually, it's definitely bigger than Priory because this is a paperback.
Yeah,
How many
'cause I don't have
pages
the
is
other one.
Priory?
But see, one thing, so Priory is rather, it's intimidating. And the only reason it's intimidating is because it is a bigger book, and I do really want to read this one. It is a bigger
1,080
book.
pages.
And see, this one, that's no.
You're like
That part,
800, aren't you?
well, see, there's a glossary and stuff in the back. So I got to get to the actual stuff. 804 pages.
Yeah.
I don't want to read the very last page because that might ruin the whole thing. But 804 pages. And yeah, I am going to tackle this. This might be a summer thing or something, but I am going to tackle that one. But now we're getting into all the books. So you can't hear me?
No, I thought she was on the phone. No, she has the phone to her face and she's listening to our our talk. I thought
I
she was on
love
the
it.
phone the whole time.
I love it.
Why didn't you turn the TV on?
Because I don't want to distract you.
Oh, jeez. We're a mess, y'all. I told you.
We are.
Anybody who's still hanging on for dear life, listen, the book was great. Next month's book is going to be great.
I
The
really
podcast is
wanna
great.
see.
Everything's great, but we are busy.
Everything is going good, but life was definitely life in today. You know, adulting completely, work, home, everything, technology. But I am just most thankful that, you know, it's a good day. We can end it talking about books. And I can also
Ooh,
share my
you got a pink bookmark to come with your God of the Woods cover? Oh,
yep. Mm-hmm.
that's nice. I thought mine was pink too, but mine are white pages. Now I'm
And then
mad.
that's the gold book that I did not
It's
want.
because you didn't get the pink version of the God of the Woods.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. It came with a pink bookmark. Like I
It's
need
the
to
same
probably
cover. Can you show her your pages
Mhm.
again on God of the
Yeah.
Woods?
So the
Is the
inside, I
cover
don't
pink
know.
too? Ooh, it's green.
It's green and pink. I always have to get this whole mirror thing. So it's green and pink, and
And
then
then
it's
the
got
pages are
the pink here, and then it also has the pink bookmark that came along with it. So I'm really excited that I
Yep.
picked this one. I really, really am.
We admire our books, and I'm excited because, as Ashley knows, and well, hopefully, we're going to be getting more into the realm of advanced reader copies. We're going to be doing a lot more books ahead of release date.
Mhm.
So I'll be writing some reviews for Book Trib, an online newsletter and book review site. And I've got a couple books
Exciting.
coming up, so I'm really excited about
Congratulations.
those.
Don't downplay it. Congratulations. That is major
Thank
news.
you. We've been getting approved for NetGalley arcs, and it's a great time to be a reader because we are about to we're going to be privy to some new books, and hopefully they're all just stellar. But
Yeah.
if not, I'll let you know.
I'm
So
excited. I am overexcited. And I think we're only in April.
yeah. And like I said, it's only been 6 months. We've been doing the podcast for 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we're coming up on episode. Listen, don't let me get it wrong. Is it not 9 on
9.
Sunday? Okay.
9.
No, not 13. We're not
We're
that high.
filming
Far.
9. We're
We're
filming 9,
filming
but
9.
it comes out on Friday.
And this month we'll probably do a few things here on YouTube because we won't have the time to do a formal podcast until the end of the month, and you won't see that until May. So we have the readathon coming up in 2 weeks,
The whole month.
and the whole month is just going to be a whole lot of engagement. So we're going to be on YouTube a
No,
lot.
I was saying the readathon was all month.
Oh, that's your whole month. Well, you better get started then. Where's that Miss
I
Born at?
have
Emily,
Blood
where's your
Mark.
Miss Born?
Blood Mark. I read Blood Mark. That's what I'm reading right now. That's the very first one on my list.
I told you
Very
you're
first
supposed to
one.
start Miss Born on April 1st.
I just DNF
I
from
started Blood
March,
Mark
and
on
I just
April
put
1st.
Wait, what'd you DNF?
This is how to end a time war.
You did? Oh no, she DNF'd a book, and it's a book that I want to read.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Got to hear more about that one.
Yeah, we'll
I
see.
love that.
I read this author's other book, and I agree. It's high prose. So
Mm-hmm.
it can be a little hard. So I can't believe she DNF'd it. I'm gonna bully her into reading it like she's bullying me. So
Somebody wanted hugs. I just don't want them on the whole, screen thing, whatever. I gotta change my picture. Those are old books.
yeah, we got it. Should I take
Somebody's
a stack?
getting
This
sleepy.
is what my book looks like.
Yeah, you're gonna have to definitely do like a stack picture or something. I have one for the birthday haul that I just did because that only happens like once a year. So
Yeah.
all right. I think I'm being summoned.
It's time, y'all. I appreciate everybody for popping on and spending an hour of chaos with us.
Yes.
So
it has been
we'll catch up with y'all here in the next couple weeks. And hopefully Ashley can get her time. I'm going to say until next time.
Happy reading.
She got it. All right, y'all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.